Hey fam, it's your boy Pop Pop. The live streams are going to be few and far between from now on because they just haven't worked out as far as video quality and all of the other issues of it being too hard to keep everybody on the topic. Today's topic is with what's going on in the world. People aren't being told. We're being told about woke issues. We're being told about Burning Man. We're being told about the cough cough and the jab jab. But we're not being told that Vladimir is very angry and he's about to drop an egg or two or three on top of the Iron Eagle. That's us, if you don't know. So this video is Helen Smith certified. I got my shirt on. It's Leanne Terubiate certified because it's about a serious topic. So I should be good to go with all my detractors. But be that as it may, it says of the Watchman and the people the Watchman is trying to warn. If he had taken the warning, he would have saved himself. But if the Watchman sees a sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes the life of one of them, that man will be taken away because of his iniquity. But I will hold the Watchman accountable for that man's blood. So that means that people who know what's coming, and there is a 7-year tribulation period that's fast approaching this world, and it's all converging. Climate, half of the world is burning right now. All sorts of cough cough going on. All sorts of riots and pestilence and weird things going on with manifestations of aliens in people's backyards. And the cops, when they came that night, they said that there really was something going on. And I believe that that's going to manifest itself very soon because everybody's being prepped for it, And we have a feckless, lying octogenarian who's been a consummate liar and plagiarist for 50 years. And it's all on purpose, this administration. We have a transportation secretary who takes time off when, things are really heating up and falling apart. We have a resident in chief who's taken 40% of his term in office on vacation. Almost half the time in office spent on vacation. If that was Donald, they would be screaming so loud you wouldn't even need a TV set to hear it. We have a person who's in charge of the finances of the country, and they're just pouring money and throwing it and giving it away to people all over the world except here where it's needed. We have a fifth column pushing up not only from the south but by the north, and they're being sprinkled all around this country so that when the time comes, and we go to defend ourselves, it'll be just like France. It'll be chaos in the streets internally to where we can't defend ourselves. And they're trying to take away people's means of defense if you defend yourself, you wind up in jail. You know, the IRS has literally been weaponized. 80 or 90,000 new IRS agents, and the IRS has purchased more munitions. I mean, it's an incredible amount of munitions and GUNS for IRS agents, you know. And I can tell you, fam, and see, everybody said, oh, 45 is going to be the one to start the WAR because of his temperament. Nothing could be further from the truth. He had us pulled out of everything. But see, greed and all of these manufacturers, that are making tons of money off of people's suffering, and they're just spiritually dead. They're like sharks. When a shark eats its prey and its eyes roll back, they have that look like sharks. They bankrupted this country to the point where the whole world knows it's impossible for us to pay our debt. Half the world has abandoned the US dollar, which means that we won't have proxies and suckers to sell our debt to. Our strategic oil reserve is almost exhausted, and our ammunition's pretty much gone, given away to other people to help them defend themselves while we're left high and dry. And in the meantime, everybody parties. People go out into the desert and mock God, and then they wind up with sores all over their bodies because the rain came and flooded them out, and the alkalinity in the soil burned their skin, and they all wound up with these horrible pox on themselves. And for a while they weren't allowed to leave. One of the rich cats, and took off in a jet from Burning Man. And when the jet landed in the airport, they evacuated the airport because they didn't know what the spots were. They thought at first it was the E-plague, and then it turned out it was just regular pox from the alkalinity in the rain and the soil and everything, burning people's skin. If that's not a warning about hell, and if these people don't get the warning that God is tired of being mocked and all that other stuff, I don't know what would get to these people. I really don't. But see, my channel originally started as an I, me, me, I channel about my pathetic B movie life. And people are like, Pops, why don't you make more videos about your stories and stuff like that? Fam, it's too late for that. The time is too late. And I can see this train coming. And I can tell you another thing, that once they're through and they've exhausted all of the men and women that they're feeding into this, WAR machine, and we're coming up on 500,000. 500,000 people have passed because of what's going on with the bear country and with Crane. And I'm talking around. I know that you sticklers will say, Pop, you're not pronouncing things. It's on purpose to keep the YouTube thought police off my back. So deal with it. Pop, you didn't say this word right. Pop, who are you talking about? We're talking about the 500 million people that have been wounded and KILLED'd because of the WAR. And the whole wokeness thing is so ridiculous, that people are that thin-skinned that you can't talk about the real issues, and everything on the tube has to be puppies and clowns and kittens and balloons, and everybody just gotta sing kumbaya and get along when that's not the real world. And you literally couldn't run a business like our government runs itself without going bankrupt. And of course, our country is bankrupt. We're worse than bankrupt, which means that at some point, and fam, this isn't going to be popular to say, but at some point when they run out of the men and women to feed into the WR through proxy, they're going to come for you here. And they don't care if you're a guy wearing a pink dress that identifies as a Neo Geo pink giraffe or whatever, you know, they're still going to put a GUN in your hand and tell you to go over and hop in the thing that's escalating over there. That's as roundabout as I can say it. But they're going to conscript people soon. There's going to be rationing soon. They're rationing already in the way that they've let things get so out of hand. It's already being rationed. I mean, I've eaten so much beans and rice lately. I feel like I'm getting ready to turn into Jack and the Beanstalk. But you can't afford gas. You can't afford housing. You know, you can't afford food. You can't afford medicine. I put my medicine off for another month because of not being able to afford it, you know, and just came up short time and time again trying to make the two ends meet. And I thank you that have, you know, contributed to my well-being, you know, sending me things here and there. But and I know that that is a sacrifice. So believe me, it's well appreciated. And those of you know who you are. And I have been absolutely faithful in praying for you. I'm absolutely doing what I'm supposed to do as an elderly person who's trying to keep the young people from making the same mistake that I did. And fam, I've said it 1,000 times. If you're a young person and you're in mommy and daddy's basement and you're clicking away on your dumb video game trying to get the highest score while mommy and daddy are losing their hair literally trying to keep a roof over your head and food in your mouth, and you're not doing anything to help out, you're not going to make it. Your family's not going to make it. Even if your family doesn't believe in prepping and you're trying to tell your parents, come on, fam. I mean, every young person, you can afford $5 for a case of water. You can afford $6 or $7 for a bag of rice and just put it in your closet. So when the time comes and there's nothing to drink, nothing to eat, you can say, Mom and Dad, you know, I have something in my closet for you. And fam, if you're a young person and you're getting beefed at all the time by your folks, the best way to get the respect of your parents and your family is to help out the best you can and to be as indispensable as you can, helping out. And speaking of indispensable, I'm going to tell you young people, I'm sorry to tell you all who said, well, Pop, I want a family and a car and a house and all of this other stuff. And I don't want BOMBS, you know, dropping on my neighborhood and all that like Vlad is threatening. And he means business too. And I believe that karma is about to come around for America, because we dropped those things on other people, and it's just a matter of time before they get dropped on us. But young people, if you want to be indispensable in this society, do whatever you can to get the word doctor put in front of your name. There are plenty of online degrees that you can get that will give you a doctor in front of your name. Back in 1973, I pulled into a gas station, and I always worked hard. I had a beautiful full-size Ford, top of the line. It was like a Ford LTD, I think it was. LTD Custom Brougham. And a girlfriend in her nurse's uniform. And I always dressed nice because I realized what was coming, that if you get a country of people that dress like rag pickers, that life tends to imitate art, so to speak. And we would end up exactly where we are. You know, people in the gutter, bent over with their pants dropping down around their knees, high as a kite, walking around like zombies. I saw all that coming, and I went to a hippie high school because I couldn't afford to go to the la-di-da Lincoln Continental Cadillac high school that my friends went to, and I was right on the border, so I chose the hippie high school, and I drove a 64 Ford Falcon, and I had a African-American girlfriend, and which, by the way, we were not allowed to go to the graduation together. They gave me a white girlfriend from out of the blue, and they gave my girl Holly, they gave her a black boyfriend to go to the prom with, and we were dancing with other people, looking at each other. You know, horrible situation. But they made it plain that we were not allowed to mingle. That's just the way it was back then. That back until 1968, they still had segregation in this country. It wasn't that long ago, fam. I mean, when I went to the beach, it was a white-only beach. When we went to Glen Echo Park, it was a white-only park until 1968. And then they had the riots that burned down a lot of Washington. I remember all that stuff like it was yesterday. But in any case, getting back to why you should have a doctorate and all that other stuff is because they're going to take the average person and run them through this grist mill. And if you don't have a doctorate and you're not a doctor or a lawyer or a nuclear technician or something like that, they're going to put a GUN in your hand and ship you off overseas. You watch, you mark my words, in the next couple of years, there's going to be conscription. There's going to be food rationing, gas rationing. They're going to do home wellness checks to come and knock on your door to see if you have GUNS on your property or any extra food that you're hoarding. You know, they're going to call a pantry a hoard, and you're going to be classified as a hoarder and an enemy of the state. All that stuff is coming. So you should have a working pantry and a hidden pantry, and maybe an off-site stash of food. All of that stuff is necessary. I even believe you should have a hidden safe room. Take a room in your house that's not too obvious as being a room, like underneath a staircase. put a bookshelf or a mirror in front of that wall so that it's not obvious that it's a door that goes into another room. Put your weapons and your preps and your food and everything, and make that room into a safe room where if something happens, you can retreat to that safe room. And fam, the old expression is, if you live in the city, get you a pity. If you live in the city, you need a pity. Get yourself a dog that's a good protector, that's not going to eat you out of house and home, you know, and train the dog to listen only to you and to be obedient to your family. I wouldn't even train the dog in English. I would train it in like Portuguese or something so that it would listen to me and not have a stranger, be allowed to give your dog commands. And if a stranger walks up to your dog and pets him and your dog wags its tail, I would say, bad dog, bad dog. You're not supposed to do that. Point to your children, say protect. Keep it very simple so that the dog knows its place in the family, that it's protected, it's going to get food, it's going to get cared for, but it's going to care for your children. It's going to be there when you need it. And if you're squeamish about getting a pit bull, get like a Jack Russell Terrier. They're very intelligent. They're good guard dogs. They'll keep you, informed if somebody's trying to open up your door at night, that kind of thing. You have to think about all of this stuff. Alternatives for food, electricity for water. But getting back to 1973 during the gas crisis, I pulled up in a very nice looking car with my nurse girlfriend. I had a suit and tie on. Back then, you didn't pump your own gas. The attendant came up and said, "Fill her up, doctor." And I said, "Yes, please." Now, back then, you only got $5 or 5 gallons of gas. I forget which it was. It was 5. And you got it every other day. They went by the tag on your car, whether you were odd or even, and you only got gas every other day. But I'm sitting there with my nurse girlfriend. I got a suit and tie on. And back then, they had just modified everything for unleaded only. So I had an unleaded only car, but you couldn't get unleaded only gasoline. So in any case, I had the car modified so that it would run on, the leaded gas that you could get. And the attendant looked at the car. He's like, "This car seems awful new. You sure it's not unleaded only?" And I said, "Well, take a look at the filler. It's got the big filler, for leaded gas. Fill it up. Don't worry about it. You got to do what you got to do at times. Costs $5 to change the filler on the car." And the car didn't pollute or anything. All that crap about, they always want you scared of something. They always want you scared of something. And in any case, the attendant was filling the tires, and I saw him looking under the car for the catalytic converter. But I had a couple of coffins put on the exhaust system. So coffins are these mufflers that look like a coffin. They call them coffins. And I kept the car in tip-top shape. It wasn't polluting, any more than anybody else's car. I didn't drive that much, but I had a nurse girlfriend who had to get to the hospital, And nowadays you got people that'll slit your tires, and they're not thinking about the people in the wintertime like myself who actually saved a man's life, because when I lived in South Baltimore, I was driving a Jeep 4x4, and a neighbor of mine had overdosed, and he was literally lying in bed, taking his last breath during a snowstorm. And I put him in a Jeep and drove him to the hospital with it, he and his mother, and saved his life. He was like 45 minutes away from passing. But nowadays, the way people are, I would have come out in my Jeep and found 4 flat tires and a note from some woke person that I should be ashamed of myself, and the guy wouldn't have made it because I would have had a Jeep with 4 flat tires. See, that's the way these people are programmed now, is to take everything into their own hands and make a decision about what somebody else should own or what somebody else should drive. So the guy said, "Fill her up, doctor." And I said, "Yes, please." And I looked at my girlfriend. We both, knew that I wasn't a doctor. The guy assumed. I didn't lie. And it was necessary to get my nurse girlfriend to the hospital reliably. So that's the way it's going to be, fam. It's not fair. It's not equitable, but people are going to do what they're going to do. And if you don't have your preps and everything in line, you're going to be one of these wolf preppers, which is a person who has no preps and has to go and bang on his neighbor's door and demand to be fed and demand to have the person who has been careful divide his stuff up and give it to you. And you don't want to be in that position. We're coming into a very rough world. Anytime you have a world where they're going to force people to eat crickets and grubs, and crickets have chitin in them, and the human digestive system, cannot digest chitin. A bird can, but a human can't. And there's all sorts of health problems that they don't care about that comes along with eating crickets. And there's a factory in Canada that's gearing up that's going to put cricket meal into everything. So when you buy a bag of chips now, or you buy a food that you've been buying for a long time, you need to check the ingredients and see if it says crickets or the genus and species name for crickets, because they're going to slip it in there just like they have with GMO food and all of the stuff that they put in children's candy, all of the stuff that they're putting in the water and everything to depopulate this world, all the stuff, the aluminum and everything else they're putting in, they're chemtrailing in the air to drop down on you while you're jogging, and drop down on the plants to make sure that only modified plants will grow. They're giving cows genetically modified corn, which is giving the cows ulcers in their stomachs. They're producing plants that have their own pesticide in the plant. Well, when the bee lands on that plant to pollinate it, it's KILLING, all the bees. So the bee population is way down. They land on one of these genetically modified plants and you have no more bees. The birds fly over a solar array farm and get fried and drop to the ground, or else they run into one of these windmills and break their necks. Power is going to be something very soon that's only going to be on for a few hours a day when everybody starts to plug in their EVs and overload the system. Obama himself said it wasn't fair for Americans to have air conditioning when the rest of the world doesn't. See, these heathen people Illuminati and these Luciferians, they don't understand that this country was blessed by God. That's why we had 2 cars in the driveway and a chicken in every pot. But we've turned from God and we've spit in the face of God. And that's exactly what the devil wants, because the devil is a being of scarcity and lack and everything else. And that's what they have in mind for you, fam. They want to get rid of you. They want to depopulate this world, have the population at under 500 million. They're going to have robots and AI to run the things that they need to run. And they're going to get rid of all of the human weeds, the human garbage. I've been called garbage, kacha, by certain people. And that's what made me want to learn other languages, so I could hear what people were talking about me. I went to McDonald's next door years ago when I could walk, while I was working at the Dodge dealership. And the 2 girls were speaking Spanish, and they said, here comes a old man to have his ice cream again. As if it was any of their business, that I could afford a 99-cent ice cream. I was starving. I didn't tell anybody I was starving. I would just get ice cream to, stretch things. And they're like, here comes the old man about his ice cream. And I told him, I said, cuidado sus palabras, talking about me. I understand what you're saying. And they were like shocked. Like the gringo understands what we... And then the man who punched me in the spine 5 years ago, he said he didn't like gringos, and that entitled him to come up behind me and punch me in the spine. And now I got to wear a diaper like a 2-year-old baby and roll around in a wheelchair. And he's out free as a bird, not a care in the world. And I was merciful to him. I could have called the cops. I could have had him locked up and deported. But I knew he had a wife and a family, and he wasn't treating them right. He was putting every penny he ever made into this crappy old blue pickup truck with dingle balls around the windshield and a quote on the back window telling everybody else what to do when he wasn't living right. That kind of crap. So, fam, to sum it all up, you have to have your covenant relationship with God. You have to have your physical fitness. You have to have your preps. And help your family through this struggle so that they don't burn out. Because if they do burn out, you're going to be up Schnitz Creek. And that's not the place to be. So throw away that PlayStation. Get it out of your house. Those things only cause arguments about, I don't want to come to dinner because I'm playing this game. I don't want to share my turn. Don't turn the PlayStation off because I don't want to lose my high score. Those things are like the devil in a box sitting in your basement. Get them out. Don't even give them to another person. Get rid of them. The time has passed all of that. This is a real deal. It's time to get serious. Pop out.